Welcome to MrKhanMaths, and in this video we will be learning how to divide numbers which leave us with a decimal remainder. So in other words, we end up with a decimal answer. So let's go straight into it. Now for my examples, I will be using what is commonly known as the bus stop method, but in mathematical terms we call it the short division method. So let's start off by setting up my question. Example 1, we have 82 divided by 4. So first draw out my bus stop, and the number on the inside will be my dividend. So in this case, it is the number 82. And the number that goes on the outside will be my divisor. And the divisor in this case is the number 4. Now that the question is set up, what really helps me when solving any types of whole number division is writing out the times table for my divisor. So you can see on your screen, I have the 4 times table. This will help me work out the answer. So now for the calculation, I would ask myself, how many 4s are there in 8? Now another way of thinking of this is, how many 4s can we take out of 8? And using my times table, I can see that it is 2 times. So I'm going to put my 2 here like this. Now moving on to the next digit. I want to know how many 4s are there in 2. Now looking at my times table, you can see there is none. So we will place our 0 here like this. However, you may notice that we have a remainder of 2 which needs to be carried over. But there is no number for which we can carry it over 2. So this is where we introduce our decimal point. Now what should be known is all whole numbers have a decimal on the end of it and is invisible until it is needed in cases such as these. So we're going to put our decimal point here like this. So therefore we're going to put 1 for our answer like this. Now what follows a decimal point is a placeholder. So I'm going to put a placeholder here. So now my remainder of 2 becomes 20. You maybe think we could have placed the decimal at the start before doing our calculation, but I want you to approach this question as if I would for any short division question we may be given. Now that my placeholder has been put in place, I'm going to ask myself, how many 4s are there in 20? And looking at my times table, you can see there are 5 4s in 20. So there we have it. 82 divided by 4 is 20.5. Moving on to example 2, 118 divided by 8. I'm going to follow the same steps as I did for my previous example. So firstly, I'm going to set up my bus stop, and on the inside, I will put my dividend of 118, and on the outside will be my divisor. Again, I will write out my times table, which will help me with my calculation. So first, I'm going to ask myself, how many 8s are there in 1? Or how many 8s can I take out of 1? And the answer is 0. Now I'm going to cross off my 1 and carry it over to the next digit. Now my 1 becomes 11. So I'm going to ask myself, how many 8s can I take out of 11? And using my times table, I can see that I can take only 1 8 out of 11. However, I am left with a remainder of 3. And this will then be carried over to my next digit. So my 8 now becomes 38. Again, I'm going to ask myself, how many 8s are there in 38? And using my times table, I can see that there is 4 8s in 38. And I have a remainder of 6. Now you may have realized when I carried over my remainder of 6, it does not have a digit that it can be carried over to. So this is when I bring in my decimal point here and also 1 in my answer. Accompanied with my decimal point, I'm going to put a placeholder. So now I have 60. Again, I'm going to ask myself, how many 8s can I take out of 60? And using my times table, I can see that it is 7. Again, we have a remainder of 4. Now you will repeat the same process until you get no more remainders. So with my remainder of 4, I will accompany it with a placeholder. Finally, I will ask myself, how many 8s are there in 40? And you may have realized before I even did the question that there is 5 8s in 40. So there we have it. 118 divided by 8 is 14.75. So let's move on to my next examples. You may have realized I am using bigger numbers, but the same process still applies. So example 3, we have 745 divided by 20. So again, I'm going to set up my question by drawing up my bus stop, and on the inside, I will put my dividend of 745, and on the outside will be my divisor of 20. Again, I'm going to write out my times table, and this will help me answer my question. So let's go into the calculation. I'm going to ask myself, how many 20s can I take out of 7? And the answer is 0. So I'm going to cross off my 7 and carry it over to my next digit. So my 4 now becomes 74. So I'm going to ask myself, how many 20s can I take out of 74? And using my times table, I can see it is 3. However, I do have a remainder of 14, and that will be carried over to my next digit. So my 5 now becomes 145. So again, I'm going to ask myself, how many 20s can I take out of 145? And using my times table, I can see it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And I have a remainder of 5. Now, as we did for our previous examples, this is where I bring in my decimal points because I have run out of digits to carry my numbers over to. So once I have drawn out my decimal points, I'm going to accompany it with a placeholder. So again, I'm going to ask myself, how many 20s are there in 50? And using my times table, I can see it is 2. I am again left over with a remainder of 10. I accompany this with a placeholder. So finally, I'm going to ask myself, how many 20s are there in 100? And like before, you may have already seen that there is 5 20s in 100. And there we have it. The answer to 745 divided by 20 is 37.25. Now moving on to my final example, 3,406 divided by 8. I'm going to follow the same steps, and I'm going to first draw out my bus stop, and on the inside, I will put my dividend. On the outside, I will put my divisor, and I have set up my question. Again, I'm going to write out my times table, which will help me answer my question. So first, I'm going to ask myself, how many 8s are there in 3? And the answer is 0. So I'm going to cross off my 3 and carry it over to my next digit. So my 4 now becomes 34. So I'm going to now ask myself, how many 8s can I take out of 34? And using my times table, I can see is 1, 2, 3, and 4. I have a remainder of 2, which I'm going to carry over to my next digit. So my 0 now becomes 20. So I'm going to ask myself, how many 8s can I take out of 20? And using my times table, I can see that it is 2. Again, I have a remainder, which I'm going to carry over to my next digit. And the remainder is 4. So my 6 now becomes 46. So I'm going to ask myself, how many 8s can I take out of 46? And using my times table, it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I have a remainder of 6. Now, again, you may have noticed that there is no number for my 6 to be carried over to. So this is where I bring in my decimal points and my placeholder. So I'm going to ask myself, how many 8s are there in 60? And the answer is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And I have a remainder of 4. Again, my remainder will be accompanied by a placeholder. So my remainder of 4 now becomes 40. So I'm going to ask myself, how many 8s can I take out of 40? And using my times table, you can see that it is 5. So there we have it. The answer to 3,406 divided by 8 is 425.75. Now that you have seen my 4 examples and you have seen the steps that we need to take to get to our answer, please have a go at Mr. Khan's skills check questions. Here are Mr. Khan's skills check questions. Please press pause and have a go at the questions on your screen, and press play when you're ready for the answers to be revealed. Here are the answers to Mr. Khan's skills check questions. Check how you have got on by marking the questions you have done. Thank you for watching. Please do not forget to like, share and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Bye for now and see you again soon.